So, good morning, everyone. It is great to have you here for another Meshwork webinar. So we've got a really exciting one today. So we all know COP26 has been incredibly important and in the news. And I think the great thing we've got now is we need to practically work out how we're going to cause any changes. And I think this is why this webinar is going to be so useful. So selling sustainability is incredibly important. We've got to work out how we're going to convert the people who aren't making those changes. So the developers and the clients that you're working with, and you know they could maybe be moved a little bit. This is where Virginia and Philippa come in with their great knowledge and show you how you can make those changes with them. So as I said, we've got Virginia, she's from Green Gorilla Consultancy, and she'll be exploring more the theory side of selling sustainability. She has a wealth of knowledge. She was previously an architect, but she's also been working with Green Gorilla for a while and creating courses on the subject as well. We also have Philippa, and she will be explaining the practical side of selling sustainability. She will be drawing on her experience from working at Thrive with Chetwoods. So we've got two great women today talking about a really interesting subject. So I really hope you guys get a lot from it. So I'm going to quickly run through my little part. So a bit of housekeeping, please keep your microphones on mute. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat box and we'll go through them all at the end. We can also unmute you at the end as well if you want to ask it in person. It will be recorded and will appear on Meshwork afterwards. So you will probably all know a lot about Meshwork if you've been to previous CPDs or if you're on the platform anyway. But basically what we're trying to create is a engaging community of sustainability specialists and people who are passionate about the subject. The whole point of it is to bring people together to push the industry forward. So we're doing that in numerous different ways. So we've got our CPDs, but we're also working on courses. So we've got one coming up this Friday with Kate Brown. She's doing a climate literacy course on the construction industry. I think the great thing about this course, so it's spread over 3 sessions, and in the first 2 you kind of learn about the importance of climate literacy, and in the third one you come out with solutions. So you come up with a toolkit to bring into your practice and bring into the real world of how you can move your knowledge into practical solutions. So it's £99 for 3 sessions, which are 2.5 hours each, but it's really worthwhile. If you can't make it this time around, we will be doing it again next year. Yeah, and quickly, we are doing a survey. So we built Meshwork for you guys. We would like your feedback. If you are liking what we're doing, or if you think we could be better at something, we would love to know, because in the end, we're building it for you. We want you guys to enjoy it. But there is a £100 prize at the end. So if you submit your information to the survey, you'll be in the chance of winning £100 John Lewis voucher or £100 worth of planting ecology trees. And finally, I'll just go over a little bit of what Mesh Energy do. So we are an independent and holistic energy consultancy. We're based in Surrey, but we work on projects all across the globe and the UK. Primarily, we work with design teams and architects to make the sustainable design process as simple and as cost-effective as possible. But that's it from me. I will now pass over to Virginia to start off the presentation.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me today. Let me just share my presentation, which is not the eagle. So, thank you, Catherine, for the introduction. As you said, I'm going to cover a little bit of the principles of selling sustainability. And I want to welcome you with this quote by Theodore Lewitt, who was an economist. People don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill, they want a 1/4-inch hole. And I'm going to explain what that means in our profession in a bit. But first, about Green Gorilla and our mission, which is we want to make sustainability a no-brainer. That's ultimately, I'm the founder of Green Gorilla. This is ultimately what I would like to see happening eventually. And again, Catherine already introduced me, but I do a bunch of things. I'm a sustainability lecturer at Coventry University. I'm a trainer, I'm a coach. I'm the author of this book, which is conveniently placed behind me, How to Find Success as a Sustainability Professional in a Rapidly Changing World. And the title is actually Sustainable. But I used to be an architect, so I come from the construction industry. That's my bag. Green Gorilla helps the sustainability leaders, the sustainability professionals and businesses and graduates to really find their voices. So we do training, a lot of training, including selling sustainability, but also things like tell compelling stories or make an impact. And everyone has different needs, of course. But we also coach people into becoming the best version of themselves and think deeply about their career issues and how they can make a difference. Yeah, and we try and be a sustainable business. So but I'm going to run through that very quickly because I want to get to the meat of things, which is really selling sustainability ethically, especially for technical people. So people that usually don't have that selling job in their job spec. But why do we need to sell sustainability? Now, you will be aware that during COP26, the World Green Building Council has launched Beyond the Business Case. And actually, it's really compelling. We were talking about that with Philippa yesterday, weren't we? Why you can't afford not to invest in the sustainable built environment. So now it's not anymore whether we should or should not, is really you cannot afford not to do it, especially because the built environment is responsible for the majority of global greenhouse gas emissions, but also is an incredible opportunity because lots of new sustainable building will be worth a lot of the money that is going around. So it's been reckoned 24 over, well, nearly $25 million trillion dollars of investment by 2030. That's an enormous amount of money. But also we have a moral responsibility to do something about it. Everyone, not just those that have sustainability in their job title, especially if we have technical knowledge, we need to put it to good use. Again, it's not a matter of if, but when we're going to do it. And I think Philippa is going to tell a bit about that. But if we cannot communicate that sustainability message, then our technical skills are worth nothing. Would you agree with me? Because we're not going to use them. We're not going to use them in the right way. So we need to learn how to communicate that message. We need to learn how to sell sustainability to others. But the question that I usually ask at the beginning of this sort of webinars is, okay, what words come to mind when you think of selling? So think in your head, I tell you, you know, sell, or you need to sell something. And I'm not going to ask directly, but if you think about it, most people will say things like this. It's pushy, it's hard, it's yuck, it's difficult. This is actually research has been done in the past about the importance of selling, and only a few people will say it's important or it's essential or it's fun even. So the majority of people really have a negative idea of selling, a negative perception of it. And we think it's about not being clean, or because maybe we have been tricked in the past by salespeople. Because our idea is really connected to, maybe if you watch Matilda, you know, famous movie, you would know about this character. We have this, you know, legacy of old salespeople that could actually manipulate the customers because they had the knowledge that others didn't. So they could basically make up whatever they liked about it. They could claim stuff that wasn't true. Now, be careful, because nowadays we also have the you know, the issue of greenwashing. So you know, we need to be careful about what we're talking about, and that our claims are verified. But generally, selling is actually a human, very human activity. It's something that we do every day. Everyone sells, even if we don't exchange money. We talk to our children, we talk to our spouses, we talk to our colleagues, and we sell some form of, you know, our ideas effectively. We try and convince them. And it's essential, in fact, to the survival of our companies. So The thing is, we need to come to peace with that. We need to sell, but we can do it ethically. We can do it in the right way. And we just said we need to do it actually. So the selling act is made of 5 main components: the mindset, your mindset as the person who's trying to sell, your client's needs and wants, your client's mindset as well. And you need to be a bit of a psychologist. I'll try and share a few elements of that today. Then you need to build a rapport. Only at the end, you push your solution. So let's look at them one by one. So your mindset. So as we said, we have this maybe preconception about selling and how it's something yucky and horrible. However, if we think about it, today is a very different situation. Information is at your fingertip. You've got everything available. Everyone has information available. If you look carefully, you can find everything on the internet, of course. However, what you can do as a technical person, I assume most of the people here work in the construction industry, perhaps they're architects. You're providing a service to your customers. So you're helping them making sense of the information available. You know, if you're not an architect, you don't dare try and build a building, obviously. And with sustainability is the same. Yes, you can find information on the internet, but you as a person that has the knowledge, has that duty almost to provide a service, help your customers. So it's not about selling and pushing something they don't need. It's actually about customer service. It's about helping them along the way to find the right solutions to their problems. So really, if there is one thing that you want to take away from this little webinar from me, is you need to move your attention from your knowledge, your brain, whatever it is in there, to your customers' brain and what they need and what they want. So it's really that shift, the mindset shift from you and what you know to, okay, what do they need? What do they want? And I know it's difficult. Sometimes they don't even know what they need or what they want, but that's a separate discussion. So it's all about your confidence. You know, if you are trying to sell something to somebody else, it's all about your mindset, the way you talk, the way you behave. It's all a package. You can't split that. But today we're going to focus for just 1 minute about your mindset. But there are many, many other things you can learn about the way you talk or the way you behave, your body language. But the main thing would be to think, okay, even if in the past you haven't been able to sell anything or you felt awkward about it, think about how you can improve in that sense. How can, you know, shifting that mentality from I have to sell to I can help my customers, and in the meantime push sustainability. So that growth mindset. So think about why you don't feel confident in certain situations. Maybe because you had the bad experience in the past. Maybe because you are filling your head with pessimistic thoughts about, you know, how you've not been good in the past, or maybe people will point the finger at you or criticize you, but just put everything aside. And, you know, the first step for change, of course, is being aware of what's going on in your head. But just think about, I'm helping my customers. I would say that's the main thing. So it's about rethinking. It's about giving perspective also to an event that might not have gone the way you wanted, say a meeting not being successful, or, you know, your ideas haven't been pushed through. So how will that matter in a year's time? That's the main thing. Give it perspective. Will it matter tomorrow, next year, in 15 years? Probably it won't at all. So, you know, make peace with the fact that we make mistakes, and that change of perspective might just help, you know, avoid that catastrophe in your head. Being optimistic doesn't mean being happy-go-lucky. It means having a proper plan. Give yourself a chance for the future not to fail. So effectively being optimistic about your next opportunity to sell sustainability. Just having a plan. You know, there are lots of techniques that we teach here at Green Gorilla about actually having as almost a script. Many salespeople have a script. So have that script. Think about what can go wrong, the sort of questions that you can be asked, etc. So, but the key element is really your mindset, being optimistic about the future. And finally, is find the silver linings, so find the learning in whatever you are experiencing, even if it's not so great, even if you made a fool of yourself a few times. We all did that before. So, but what are the positive outcomes? What did you learn? That's the thing to take away. So the next bit will be your client's needs and wants. Now, it's very easy, especially if you are an experienced professional, if you've done things again and again and again, you will want to push your solution straight away. But it will be a bit like, as you can see from the image, pushing a square peg in a round hole. You are not effectively getting into your client's shoes and understanding what they really care about. And that's the first mistake to avoid. So the first thing to do, and I'm sure you'll do a bit of this, or if not, maybe you do all of it, great, fantastic, well done. Do your research. Social media, great place where to start. But also, Google or Ecosia, if you are a bit sustainability minded. Look at their sustainability report if they have any. Of course, we're talking about commercial clients here, but it could be also people, just, private clients. But obviously for commercial clients, you will have more information out there. Their targets, if they have any, their past achievements, their awards, their vision statements, their social media. What do they talk about? What they care about? And I'm not trying to say that, you might be lucky. Philippa has a great experience with great illuminated clients, but not everyone will be like this. So let's see whether we can, even if they care about the money and their marketing, etc., that's fine, it's great, it's a starting point. And it's important as a first step to self-sustainability to understand what your client's priorities are. And there might be here at the denier stage, which is effectively compost in this picture, or they could be a champion, they might be already flourishing with sustainability. Thing is, and these are just, this is taken and, illustrated by me from an IEMA report from 2016. But they could be a complier just doing the bare minimum. Your job in whatever, technical job you are, is to push them from that step to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next. And you don't have to do everything at once. Even if you're just passionate about, say, natural materials or passive design, great, focus on that. Move them from one step to the next step, and then to the next step. Every little bit counts, quoting a famous supermarket, every little helps. Start with a why. Why would they need to engage with you? What is the core reason why you and not somebody else, perhaps? Why they should embrace sustainability and not to do business as usual. So this is quoting Simon Sinek, a very famous author who wrote this book, Start With Why. So the key question to ask yourself in the first place is, what's in it for them? Why should I do this? Okay, so that's the number one question. But also you will need to tell them and be able to communicate what happens if they don't work with you. Like we said at the beginning, why can't we afford not to do sustainability anymore? But what happens if they don't work with you? What happens if they don't embrace sustainability? Because now is, that's the scenario pretty much. But also the positive side, how their life, their project, the company will change for the better if they work with you, if they embrace sustainability. So have those scenarios in your head and try and paint them for your client. Storytelling is a fantastic way to do that. Case studies, we're going to talk about it in a second, very briefly. But the key to really understand who you got in front of you is asking open questions. And I know sometimes it's difficult, it's against the grain of the way we've done things in the past. But it's a fantastic way to really get to know who you got in front of you, establish a rapport, a relationship, get them to trust you. That's the whole point. Ask open questions and listen to the answers. Again, don't think about what you're going to cook later tonight, what meeting you got next. No, just listen to the answers and try and establish what do they need? What do they want? What misconceptions they might have about sustainability, about the work you want to do. And really, and I know that you know that already, needs and wants are very different sometimes. So maybe they want something, but you know, as an expert, they might need something completely different. So let's try and unpack that and explain it to them. So open questions means how, why, what, you know, why do you want or you don't want that? Okay, how can I help you? How can this be made better for you, etc., etc. Or what happened, you know, just tell me. That helps really people feel listened to, and it builds up the trust. And that's key to selling. You need to build up that trust. So think about your client mindset. I am absolutely sure that at least once in your life, you had somebody saying, sustainability costs too much. We can't afford it. We don't have the resources. We don't have the time. That's the tip of the iceberg, guys. They really mean, I mean, there might be that they don't have budget, but we know if we are, you know, if we are vaguely interested in sustainability, we know that sustainability can come at no cost, depending on where you implemented it and depending on what you want to do, of course. So cost too much is not an excuse. Well, it is an excuse. It might be that they think, what if I look like a fool? What if it's something that ends up being a complete disaster? What if I lose my customers? Maybe my customers don't want this sort of thing. I can't be bothered, you know, it's too complicated, or I don't know what it's going to end up with. I don't understand it. That's a key thing. If we don't ask the right questions, we don't know whether they know we know, if it makes sense. Basically, we need to ask the questions in order to understand whether there are any gaps in knowledge, which I assure you there will be, because you're the expert, not them. What's in it for me? They don't understand why they should be bothered about that, or haven't got the time. It could be just that they feel, you know, at capacity, or they might have a lot of misconceptions that is, for example, useless tree huggery. So open questions really make you understand what's going on below the surface, and then you can answer them one by one, and, you know, start dispelling all these myths. So we were saying people don't want a quarter-inch hole drill, they want a quarter-inch hole. What does it mean? With the example of smart cities, and I know that I've been talking for 18 minutes already, so I'll try and shorten it up now. Smart cities, for example, you might want to talk about the open data platforms. You know, you might talk to a council and talk about this stuff. The connectivity, or the smart sensors, or the digital technology. Okay, guess what? Your client doesn't care about any of this. What they care about is to save money, and to have safer roads, and to have less traffic, and to have a more efficient public services, and perhaps elderly people living independently. All of this is the whole. All of this is the result. So in order to sell the drill, really, you need to sell the results of the drill, not all the bits and bobs that it's made of. And you can translate that into whatever you are involved in. One key element of that is to flex your language and tone depending on who you got in front of you. So you wouldn't talk about the technical bits with a CEO, for example, of a company, or a CFO. You might talk about the bits of the drill, let's say, with an engineer, so the details of your work in technical terms. But with a CEO, you might want to use visionary, you know, statements. With a CFO, you will need to talk money. So you will need to adapt your language according to the person you got in front of you. And the two main influencing techniques for that would be to reason with them. Although, believe me, people don't buy reason, people buy emotions, and through their emotions. So be ready to paint that picture of what happens if you don't do it, what happens if you do it. That inspirational stuff is really, really important. One element, or one way of doing this, is by using storytelling. Storytelling in the sense that you don't have to go with, you know, princesses and dragons. You can just use case studies. You can just use somebody else who's done it before, and people will start to get acquainted with the idea of doing sustainability. That is also an element of storytelling. What storytelling does is release oxytocin, which is a hormone in your brain that is a feel-good hormone. It's that trusting hormone, and it's, you know, that's chemical, you know, that's science. So the more you use anecdotes and stories, and the more you create that relationship, and the more you increase trust with your clients. Jargon, another thing to avoid, like the plague. Think about what words you use that your friends and family wouldn't understand. Think about any alternative words that you can use instead. If you really, really must use one of these terms there, what's actually a memorable way to explain it? Avoid the acronyms, avoid the jargon, relook at the way you talk to people. One experiment or a little exercise I make people do, but right now we haven't got much time for that, but think about it. How would you explain circular economy or sustainable development or whatever else that you deal with that is sustainability related in your day-to-day job to a 5-year-old child? And then tell me whether your language doesn't need to adapt massively. So do it in your own time. It's quite fun. Finally, last couple of bits from me. Build trust and rapport. That's as simple as establishing eye contact. Don't touch hands at the moment, but in an ideal world, back in 2019, we could shake hands. That's a fantastic way of establishing rapport. Smile. It doesn't cost you anything. Smile and mirror the other person. Try and see the way they talk. You don't have to imitate them. But for example, if I'm looking at Catherine at the moment, if I do like this, I mirror you just slightly. With all these little things, connect us at a human level. It's very, very important. Finally, the content. Yay, finally we are there. But the thing is, you need, and I know you're not that, and you do that already. You create the perfect bespoke solution for your clients. But in terms of sustainability, think about beyond solar panels. It's not just about solar panels and you can stick them on every roof. Think about you're going to save money in the operational phase because not everyone will be interested in that. Think about what they need and respond with the right sustainability solution for them. Okay, it might take a bit of research, it might take helps from others, it doesn't matter, it's the perfect solution for your client and they're going to be happy. The other thing to consider is the market is going there. We know that it's going towards more transparency, it's going towards more ESG, so environmental, social and governance declarations. Is again not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we're all moving that way. So that's a fantastic argument for your clients. Look, you need to do it. There's very little choice about it, but you can do it happily because there are a lot of advantages in adopting sustainability, and these are usually the advantages for building or build environment related project. Return on investment, risk management and growth. What does it mean in practice? They're going to save money, again, if done in the right way. They're going to perhaps sell at a higher price. Maybe they will have access to green capital. Maybe they will increase productivity within their teams. Risk management, they will avoid fine. They are going to have resilient buildings. They're going to increase the brand reputation, etc. And finally, growth. They are going to attract better clients, better staff. They're going to have an advantage over the competitors. They're going to invest, hopefully, in innovation and quality. So it's not just about solar panels. It's not just about saving in the long run. There are many things that people can get out of sustainability. And that's me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn because that's my home, and but also take a look at the website if you wish. And yeah, and now over to Philippa, I suppose.
Thank you. Cheers, Virginia. I'll just share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, okie dokes. Okay, so hopefully I'm just going to show you a couple of practical applications, I suppose, of some of the things that Virginia's talked about. But I'm definitely going to take on that note of explaining to a child, because that's something that I definitely need help with, is how to get things across in a simple way. But just a bit of background. So I'm speaking today from Chetwood's Thrive. So Chetwood's was founded in 1988, and sustainability has always been a focus. But this was formalised in 2017 with the Chetwood's approach, and that consists of Studio, which is the creativity part, Works, which is technology and innovation, and Thrive, which is all things sustainability and health. And this is the Thrive team, and our time is split into thirds, and 1/3 of that is external consultancy. And that's the bit I'm going to talk to you about today. So the first thing that I did when I headed up Thrive is try to figure out what sustainability means to an architecture practice. And the way that I did that is by relating back to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and using those themes, which are obviously now internationally recognised, and in quite a lot of people's environmental, social governance policies. Just to identify the areas of opportunity, what is an architecture practice responsible for? And this tool has been really useful to convey just how much responsibility business can have on these goals, and identify a pathway forward. So we noticed that there's 2 sections here. One was our business, and one was actually through our product, which is obviously design in this case in an architecture practice. So obviously it helped us highlight where we should focus, and responsible consumption and production was one. So these are just some examples of what we've done as a practice. And then through our work, we simplified the SDGs a little bit, UN Sustainable Development Goals, into these 7 core drivers, which are sustainability drivers. And we use these as a communication tool with clients. To actually just simplify sustainability, and we find that these themes cover most areas, and they're linked back to sort of EU level policy review. So the chances are it's going to be these themes will be filtered through things like planning and policy going forward. And just our consultancy is branched off really. Originally, we were working with buildings, but we've ended up actually advising on development strategy for clients. We can get involved in product design and education. And you'll see on the right-hand side, the industry bodies we're affiliated with. I'm a Well AP, for example, and we have certified passive house designers in-house. So then we've got our work. So it's just showing, I'm obviously speaking from a little bit of experience. I just want to demonstrate some of the people we've worked with that potentially are selling sustainability methods have worked on. So I thought I'd show you that. So let's get into the main body of what we want to talk about. So I wanted to talk to you today about how we have sold sustainability in the past, one methodology. So one thing that we do at first, and for architects, this still wigs them out in terms of the amount of text that's on here. But basically, we do a bit of a due diligence report at the beginning, relating back to our drivers. And you'll see the questions in green there. We try and identify the carrots and sticks for clients, basically. So we look at their websites and social media, as Virginia highlighted. And we also look at the local planning authority requirements, local plans, just a high level review, because typically we're using these for a building in particular. So it's doing that, showing how that all aligns with our drivers, and typically they do, and then identifying the industry best practice targets on the right hand side. And typically these stay the same. We just go through and just remove the ones that aren't relevant, or highlight the ones that we think the client will be really interested in. We won't review this with the client fully. It's just showing due diligence, but this is our kind of tool for communication to then be able to ask effective questions. And this is an example of a bit of analysis that we did on one of our clients. So and you'll see there's an overlap with the key benefits that Virginia picked out earlier. So this was, you'll see the inner circle is actually the client's sort of key business mantra, essentially, their pillars. And then you can see in the outer ring how all of those benefits, the sustainability benefits, actually relate to their mantra. So, you know, and the thing is that depending on who you talk to from within that client's business, they will have focuses on particular areas of that outer ring. You know, you'll have some that are all for getting the best talent in, and you'll get others that are obviously more interested in advantage over competitors. But it's just interesting to see how it maps back to, you know, the key focus from the business. So when we present to a client, we will present the context. We do that right at the beginning because we want it to be a level playing field. We want to kind of update them on, you know, the latest media, headlines, etc., to make sure that, yeah, we're starting from a level playing field to have further conversations. And this normally, you know, we'll get an idea from what the client thinks about things just from the outset. And then we'll remind the client one way or another, depending on how we're talking to them, you know, that it isn't a case of whether anymore, it's a case of when. And, you know, those that have acted first will have the experience and competitive advantage. Then we will present case studies and data, and this would be our own case studies. Or it will be from publications like this, and I have got the links that I can drop into the chat for all of these. And they're brilliant, absolutely great. They've got, especially the ones with the relating back to wellbeing, they've got some great data and metrics to draw from. And then obviously this one as well that Virginia picked up on, which is the latest from the Well Green Building Council. So key takeaways, which probably mirrors quite a lot from what Virginia said just now. This is from our learnings as well. Research your client before you meet them. Ask questions, listen, and then ask more questions. So for example, if your client is saying, you know, sustainability costs too much, ask another question. Is it because they brought a BREEAM assessor in at stage 5 because they only realised that planning asked for BREEAM excellent at stage 3, and then everything just became all about the cycle racks and nothing else, when actually there's quite a lot of stealthy sustainability that can just be done that's intrinsic to the design. You know, another thing is obviously relate back to the human experience however possible, make sustainability as tangible as possible. You know, if you do find out about the client, see if there's, as say, a story that you can tell that's going to appeal to them. Remind your client that perfection should not be the enemy of progress. Seeing this a lot at the moment, big developers either making targets or really reaching a point of inertia because they don't want to not fulfill their targets. But the point is we're all on a journey, and as long as we communicate that effectively, then there's no danger of greenwash. Embed sustainability best practice targets into your fee letters. This is something that we've done. So we've signed up to the RIBA 2030 climate targets. So we've actually got those in our fee letter as a sort of opt-in, opt-out scenario. And if the client isn't sure what that means, then that starts a discussion to carry forward. So that's me. Thank you very much. And my email's there. Again, you can find me on LinkedIn. I also frequently on there perusing the content. So yes, thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I think both of them were really, really interesting. And it's great to see from more of the theory side with Virginia to what you're actually practically doing at the moment, Philippa. So if anyone has any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat box and we can go over them now. But in the time being, what I found quite interesting with yours, Virginia, was the comment about confidence. And I was wondering, because my job isn't really to do with selling, but I do have aspects of it. But it's how do you build that confidence to really be able to sell the vision and the mission you have? If it's for me, it'll be meshwork, but for others, it'll be like the project they want to deliver. Because I find that particularly difficult, is making sure you've got the confidence to properly sell it the way you really want to.
I would say it's a process for sure, and like any skill, is not learned overnight. And there are a couple of things that come to mind. One is you need to be absolutely sure of the value that you deliver in the work you do, which seems obvious, but actually when you do a little bit of introspection, it might not be that obvious. You might be scared of selling something that is not up to the expectations of your clients, or not to be good enough to deliver it. So have that little introspection with yourself, a little self-awareness, and understand whether there is anything going on like that. The other one is connected to that, and is imposter syndrome, which affects a lot of people at different times of their lives. So feeling like an imposter. What am I doing here? I'm not qualified to do it. Or, you know, am I speaking about sustainability? The thing is, I find a lot of people have difficulties selling sustainability because they don't feel they know enough about it, even though they might be in the field, or they might have done it for several years. And that's because sustainability is everything. Sustainability is in everything. It's huge. It's a huge field. You cannot know everything. So you need to make peace with that. You will never be able to learn everything. But so long as you are aware of the value that you bring, and you know, really identify what that value is in real terms, then you'll be more confident to sell it. The other thing will be practice. Find every opportunity every day to speak to people, to get that, you know, to oil that machine where you influence them and ask the questions. The thing is, selling will come really natural when you start asking the questions, or when you start establishing that rapport. To be just that final bit where you say, okay, I can see they've answered all your questions. Great, should we move on then? Shall we do it? That's the bit that is difficult. But then once you are prepped and you've done all your homework as such, like Philippa was suggesting, you know, the questions, and being absolutely sure about your values, and then your clients' values and what they need and what they want, etc. Ask the questions, then it's quite natural to get there.
Okay, that's really useful. I'm definitely going to take that all on board. We haven't got any more questions, but I've got one, Philippa. So when you joined with Thrive and you started implementing this process, did you find with the first few projects you did, it was quite hard to get the developers or clients on side and see the big picture? Did you find like it was a big learning curve from the ones you were doing at the beginning to the ones you're doing now?
Yeah, so I'm probably an unusual case in the sense that I suspect probably the reason why Thrive was set up is because you already had a client base that were interested in sustainability. So generally, quite a few of our early projects, they were sort of already on board. The one thing that I would say is they were on board, but they didn't still quite understand the process and the scale of what was required. So even those people that are on board still probably need a little bit of, you know, education, and sometimes you do need to sort of pull on the reins a little bit and say, you know, slow down. This is a long process. This is not a, you know, a day-long workshop and that's it sorted. It's something that's mindsets need to be changed a little bit. But yeah, we have obviously still got some age-old clients who, you know, have notoriously said they're not interested, and we're still trying to figure out how we approach those, especially if they said it time and time again. It's like, well, okay, do we in the longer term, do we work with those people? That's a difficult question that I'm sure a lot of people are asking at the moment, is, you know, the ones that we can't quite convince, no matter how hard we try.
Yeah.
You know, do we actually take another commission elsewhere?
Yeah, fair.
Well,
hopefully we get to the point where that's a possibility. You don't have to chase the ones that aren't willing to change, because there's so many that are.
I have half an answer to that, not complete, because you're right, it's difficult. Sometimes you just can't convince people, and that's okay. My suggestion for some of the stuff, not for everything, of course, is not to mention sustainability. Just operate in the way you would usually do, use the materials you would usually do, and the systems and everything, which happen to be, by the way, sustainable. And just get on with life. I think in a way people are, it's a misused word, it's an abused word, and so I think it doesn't resonate with everyone. For me, it's just a matter of common sense. So if you act in common sense, and if you suggest solutions that are common sense, they happen to be sustainable at the same time.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got one question coming up. When a practice does not offer sustainability service and only has in-house knowledge, how do you start including that on fee proposals? Otherwise, the role of a sustainability advisor in the office might be seen as an overhead.
Yeah, so with the RIBA 2030 climate targets, I would embed them in any practice, irrespective of whether you've got a separate sustainability team, because it's something that the RIBA are obviously ramping up pressure on generally, and it should be something that every architect should be able to engage with. How we work at Chetwoods is that all of that stuff should be managed just by the day-to-day project team. Where we come in is for separate services, like things like or where we're working at higher level development strategy. So it shouldn't, and we obviously have our own consultancy, so we're not an overhead. There might be a degree of that, but we actually have our own business plan as well. So it shouldn't, and this is something that is a bit of a struggle for architects at the moment, I think, because things are ramped up so quickly. We need to understand that actually this is part of our day-to-day service now. And it could well be that we do need to sit down and figure out how much additional time that is. But obviously, if you're applying good passive principles in design anyway, it should just be something that we're doing as standard. As you say, sustainability shouldn't cost more. But obviously, if there's a bit of a skills gap, then the practice will need to invest in a bit of training to make sure everyone is up to date. I hope that answers that question.
No, I really think that does, and I think that's a really interesting one to hear the answer to, because a lot of people are going to be in that similar situation when they do need skill training, and it is going to be seen as an overhead. So it's good to see the two sides of it. Obviously, what you're coming from with your whole consultancy, and it's built into it, and for ones that aren't, and people are going to see it's going to be an additional cost on it. So that's great. But if that's all the questions, I think I just want to say a massive thank you. This has been really useful, and I think everyone here is going to come away with some proper actionable points. So we've got, loads of people saying thank you in the chat box. So thanks again. We'll have to do one of these in the future.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
very
you
much.
for having me. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.